Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, Russian President Vladimir Putin apologizes to the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, says Russian air defense was active when Azerbaijani Airlines plane crashed. Afghan Taliban hits back at Pakistan in retaliation for deadly airstrikes in eastern Afghanistan. EAM S. Jaishankar meets next US NSA Michael Waltz, holds wide-ranging conversation on bilateral ties and global issues. The mortal remains of former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, consigned to flames with full state honours. Leaders from across the globe pay homage to the eminent economist and former Prime Minister. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday extended an apology to Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev for a tragic incident involving the crash of Azerbaijan Airlines flight. The passenger jet was reportedly downed by Russian air defenses amidst attempts to counter Ukrainian drone attacks. The disaster claimed at least 38 lives, leaving 29 survivors. The official statement from Kremlin stated that Putin apologized for the tragic incident and once again expressed his sincere condolences to the families of the victims and wished a speedy recovery to the injured. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called Azerbaijan's president and said Russia must provide clear explanations for the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash and stop spreading disinformation. Earlier on Wednesday, flight J28243 crashed in a ball of fire near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan after diverting from southern Russia. All right, and DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us live for more on this. Jessica, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday extended an apology to Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev. What's the entire matter?
The entire matter, Siddharth, is the fact that a civilian aircraft has been shot down, as now reports suggest, by the Russian defense missile system that was in place, of course, defending against the Ukrainian drones that were targeting the Chechnya Republic, part of Russia, and the forces, significant amount of forces were deployed in the region to down Ukrainian forces which had increased their attacks in the region. So no admission of the Russia's involvement has come in that statement that you read out earlier.
Yeah.
But yes, Russian President Vladimir Putin's apology certainly has come in because it happened on Russian soil, and of course the plane, as you mentioned, then making an emergency landing in the nearest city of Aktau in Kazakhstan, which it was en route to Grozny in Chechnya, taking off from Azerbaijan in Baku. Of course, many of the people on board were Azerbaijan nationals, also including nationals from Kazakhstan and few from Kyrgyzstan, and also Russian nationals. If that report turns out to confirm, but no confirmation to that effect yet, or reports that I haven't seen so far. But what I gather from the Azerbaijan media, initially there was hesitancy in terms of accusing Russia directly for the attacks. There was a possible theory of birds flocking, and that might have led to the plane to land, make an emergency landing there. But the reports from aviation experts now goes on to suggest that it was, in fact, that attack or that blast from the air missile system, that seemed to have caused all of this. But what we do know right now, that investigations have been launched and with both Azerbaijan as well as Kazakhstan, along with Russia, to collectively now interrogate this incident.
All right, thank you so much. We leave it there. The representatives of Kyrgyzstan's Ministry of Emergency Situations as well as relatives and the local diaspora visited 3 Kyrgyz survivors of the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash in Kazakhstan. The jet came down on Wednesday, killing 38 of the 67 people on board after attempting to land at its destination in the Russian city of Grozny and then diverting far off course across the Caspian Sea. Russia's foreign ministry has expanded a list of European Union officials banned from entering Russia in response to the latest round of sanctions by the bloc on Saturday. The European Union on Monday imposed a 15th package of sanctions against Russia, including tougher measures against Chinese entities and more vessels from Moscow. Russia's foreign ministry said in a statement it had responded by adding more unnamed representatives of the security agencies, state and commercial organizations of EU countries to its stop list. President Vladimir Putin held a meeting of Russia's Security Council on Saturday. In opening remarks, President Putin said that they were going to discuss interaction in the Caspian region related to work with Russia allies. Moldova's Prime Minister on Saturday condemned Russia's decision to halt gas supply to breakaway Moldovan region and saying it would leave residents there without power and heat. In a statement on Facebook, he accused Russia of using energy as a political weapon and said that Moldova would now consider its legal options, including international arbitration. The Election Commission of India unveiled what it calls the world's largest electoral data set, releasing 42 detailed statistical reports on the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and 14 reports each on 4 state assembly elections. This groundbreaking initiative is designed to promote transparency, foster research and build public trust in India's electoral system.
More than 60 countries and territories held national elections in 2024. And India was one of those countries where parliamentary elections were held in 2024. In a landmark move aimed at promoting transparency and research, the Election Commission of India released the world's largest electoral data set, unveiling 42 statistical reports on 2024 Lok Sabha elections and 14 reports each on 4 state assembly elections. The data sets revealed that the 2024 parliamentary elections created a world record with 64.64 crore voters exercising their franchise. The number of nominations filed stood at 12,459 in 2024 compared to 11,692 in 2019, while 8,360 candidates contested elections as against 8,054 in 2019. The report further highlighted that women voters outshined male participation, signaling a new trend of increased female participation in elections. Females outnumbered men in 2024 again, like in 2019. This is only the second time in the history of GEs to Lok Sabha. Female voter turnout stood at 65.78% compared to 65.55% for male electors. Female contesting candidates numbered 800, up from 726 in 2019. In 2024, number of female electors per 1,000 male electors made a new high, that is 946 as compared to 926 in 2019. The scale of India's election is often compared to those in other countries to underscore its magnitude. Interestingly, the number of registered electors rose to 97.97 crore in 2024. Number of registered electors rose to 97.97 crore in 2024, a 7.43% increase from 91.19 crore in 2019. Dhubri in Assam recorded the highest turnout at 92.3%. Transgender votes stood at 27.09%. The 2024 Lok Sabha elections featured 10,52,664 polling stations, an increase from 10,37,848 in 2019. Uttar Pradesh recorded the highest number of polling stations at 1,62,069. Bihar saw the largest increase in polling stations with 4,739 additional stations compared to 2019, followed by West Bengal with 1,731. The size of India's electorate is more than the population of all the countries of Europe combined. India's electorate size exceeds the population of Europe, which stands at approximately 745 million and nearly matches the population of Africa, which is about 1.3 billion. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Afghan Taliban forces retaliated on Saturday, striking across the border into Pakistan in response to a deadly Pakistani attack on Afghanistan earlier in the week. Media reports confirmed at least one Pakistani paramilitary soldier was killed and several others injured in the cross-border clash. Meanwhile, the UN has called for an investigation into the civilian casualties, urging accountability for the deadly Pakistani airstrikes on Afghan soil.
The Afghan Taliban forces retaliated back and hit places across the border into Pakistan on Saturday. Media reports state at least one Pakistani paramilitary soldier was killed and 7 others injured in the ensuing exchange of fire. Afghanistan said this was in response to the Pakistani attack that took place on Tuesday, in which 51 from Afghanistan were reportedly killed. The statement from the Afghanistan's defense ministry said several points beyond the hypothetical line were targeted in retaliation from the southeastern direction of the country. Afghanistan had strongly condemned Pakistan for violating its sovereignty following a series of airstrikes on its eastern Paktika province on Tuesday night, resulted in the deaths of civilians, including women and children, and issued a warning of retaliation. A Taliban minister stated that such airstrikes on the Afghanistan border will not go unchallenged.
Especially in Afghanistan, the Afghan nation and people expect good relations, reciprocity and good policy from neighboring countries. But in the meantime, when such a brutal and aggressive invasion occurs, it is unacceptable and will not go unchallenged.
While the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan said in a social media post that it had received credible reports that dozens of civilians, including women and children, were killed in airstrikes by Pakistan's military forces in Paktika province on 24th of December. Mission has called for an investigation to ensure accountability and prevent recurrence and uphold victims' rights. Afghans have suffered more than 40 years of conflict, natural disasters, chronic poverty, food insecurity, COVID-19 pandemic, and most recently, a changeover in government authorities. The events leading up to the Taliban's takeover of Kabul in August 2021 intensified instability and violence in Afghanistan, causing even more human suffering and displacement. With inputs from Ravindra Chauhan, DD India.
Meanwhile, in support of Afghanistan's decision to retaliate against Pakistan, hundreds of protesters gathered in the capital of Khost province. They accused Pakistan of killing 51, mainly women and children, in airstrikes near the border in the southeastern province of Paktika this week. The demonstrators called for actions, including economic pressure, to be exerted on Pakistan to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future. A delegation of Hindus from Bangladesh met Shankaracharya Avimukteshwaranand on Saturday in Varanasi to raise concerns about the worsening situation of minorities in their country. The group detailed incidents of attacks on Hindu temples and growing threats to minority communities in Bangladesh. They sought intervention from the Shankaracharya and the government of India to address the situation. The Shankaracharya assured the delegation that their grievances would be conveyed to relevant authorities.
बांग्लादेश के कुछ हिंदू इकट्ठा होकर के आए, जिनमें पुरुष भी थे, स्त्रियां भी थीं, माताएं भी थीं, और उन्होंने अपनी जो पीड़ा है उसको हमारे सामने रखा। तो हमने उनकी पीड़ा को सुना है और सुन करके उनको नैतिक रूप से, भावनात्मक रूप से समर्थन दिया है कि आपके साथ हम हैं, आपकी पीड़ा को दूर करने के लिए आपके कार्यक्रमों में जो उचित होंगे हम साथ देंगे।
And still to come on DD India NewsHour. India's household spending on non-food items has risen as urban-rural gap in monthly per capita consumption expenditure has declined. Iranian authorities have lifted a ban on Meta's instant messaging platform WhatsApp and Google Play. Stay with us to know more.
गर फिरदौस बर्रुए ज़मी است हमी अस्तो हमी अस्तो हमी अस्त.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is currently on an official visit to the US, where he met with the officials of Indian Embassy and Consul Generals in US and discussed opportunities for deepening partnership, focusing on technology, trade and investments. In 2 days conference with them, he also shared views on better serving the Indian community in the USA. The minister also met US Representative Mike Waltz, had wide-ranging conversation on bilateral partnership as well as current global issues. Mike Waltz is Trump's pick for National Security Advisor. The minister also met US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Both the leaders reviewed the advancement of India-US partnership over the last 4 years, agreed that the cooperation has strengthened in many domains, just as the comfort levels have grown correspondingly. Both showed confidence that India-US relationship will serve mutual interests as well as global good. The mortal remains of former Indian Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh was cremated on Saturday with full state honours in New Delhi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who called Singh one of the nation's most distinguished leaders, paid their respect. As a mark of honour to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, Bhutan and Mauritius announced that its national flag will fly at half-mast at all government institutions.
Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's last rites were performed with full state honours at Nigambodh Ghat in New Delhi on Saturday. Top leaders from across party lines flocked to pay their last respects to one of the main architects of India's economic liberalisation. President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid their last respects to Dr. Singh. Foreign dignitaries such as the King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk, and Mauritius's Foreign Minister also attended Dr. Singh's funeral in Delhi. Leaders described him as an eminent statesman and a distinguished leader who left an imprint on national life. India is observing a 7-day national mourning until January 1. Expressing solidarity with India, Bhutan and Mauritius have also decided to fly their flags at half-mast. Earlier on Friday, world leaders across the globe expressed their grief on the demise of Dr. Manmohan Singh. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called Dr. Singh one of the greatest champions of the US-India strategic partnership. On Saturday morning, Singh's funeral journey began from the Congress Party headquarters. A flower-adorned vehicle carried the two-time Prime Minister's body in a solemn procession. Dr. Singh led the country from 2004 to 2014 and was considered one of the chief architects of India's economic liberalisation. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
India's household spending on non-food items has risen as the urban-rural gap in monthly per capita consumption expenditure MPCE has declined. According to results of the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey 2023-24, The major contributors in the non-food expenditure of the households in 2023-24 have been conveyance, clothing, bedding and footwear, miscellaneous goods and entertainment, and durable goods. Rent, with a share of around 7%, is another major constituent of households' non-food expenditure in urban India. The urban-rural gap in monthly per capita consumption expenditure has declined to 71% in 2022-23 from 84% in 2011-12. It has further come down to 70% in 2023-24. That confirms sustained momentum of consumption growth in rural areas. When ranked by MPCE, the increase in the average MPCE in 2023-24 from the level of 2022-23 has been the maximum for bottom 5 to 10% of India's population for both rural and urban areas. Israel used the American Terminal High Altitude Area Defense THAAD missile defense system to intercept a ballistic missile launched from Yemen, which was reportedly fired by the Houthi rebels. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
The Houthi rebels fired yet another missile from Yemen towards Israel on Saturday. Yemen's Houthis claimed that they targeted the Nevatim air base belonging to the Israel in the Najaf region.
The missile forces of the Yemeni armed force, with the help of God, targeted Nevatim air base belonging to the Israeli enemy in the Negev region in south of occupied Palestine using a hypersonic ballistic missile type Palestine II. The missile successfully hit its target by the God's grace.
Israel Defense Force said that it shot down the missile outside Israeli territory, but it sent sirens wailing in Jerusalem and the areas near the Dead Sea. In a significant development, a US-deployed missile defense system in Israel successfully participated in intercepting a ballistic missile launched from Yemen overnight. The Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, deployed in Israel in October, was utilized to counter the Houthi-launched projectile. According to a source familiar with the matter, the success of the interception is currently under analysis. This deployment demonstrates the US's commitment to enhancing Israel's defense capabilities, particularly against Iranian ballistic missiles. The deployment of THAAD in Israel followed an October 1st ballistic missile attack by Iran. The advanced system is capable of intercepting missiles both inside and outside the Earth's atmosphere. The head of the World Health Organization said he only narrowly escaped death in fatal Israeli strikes on Sana'a airport. Surveillance footage broadcasted on Yemeni television channels showed what it said was purportedly the head of the World Health Organization being rushed out from a VIP lounge in Yemen's main airport during an airstrike carried out by Israel. Houthi-controlled Sabah news agency said that 3 people were killed in the strikes on the airport and 3 were killed in Hodeidah on Thursday. The Israeli military said that in addition to striking the airport, it also hit military infrastructure at the ports of Hodeidah, Salif and Ras Kanateb on Yemen's west coast. It also tagged the country's Hezias and Ras Kanateb power stations. Meanwhile, operations at Sana'a International Airport have resumed on Friday. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay reports.
As per a report by the prosecutors in the Yoon Suk-yeol impeachment case, the suspended South Korean president authorized the military to fire their weapons if needed to enter parliament during his failed bid to impose martial law. A 10-page summary of the indictment report seen by AFP on Saturday also said that Yoon vowed on December 3rd to declare martial law 3 times if necessary. South Korea's Constitutional Court held its first preliminary hearing on the validity of Yoon's impeachment on Friday. The court will also decide the fate of Yoon's replacement, Han Duck-soo, who was impeached Friday over his refusal to complete Yoon's impeachment process and bring him to justice. US President-elect Donald Trump has urged the apex court to pause the law that could ban social media app TikTok, stating that he might need time to find a political resolution to the issue. The Supreme Court of the US will have next hearing on this issue on January 10. The law, if effective, will seek TikTok's Chinese owner to sell the company to an American platform, failing which it may face ban. Senior members of Canada's cabinet held talks with US President-elect Donald Trump's nominees to lead the Departments of Commerce and the Interior as Ottawa works to hold off the threat of punishing tariffs. Canada's newly appointed Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Foreign Minister Melanie Joly met with Howard Lutnick, Trump's Commerce Secretary nominee, who will also lead the country's tariff and trade agenda. Trump has vowed to impose crippling 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports when he takes office next month. He has said that they will remain in place until Canada addresses the flow of undocumented migrants and the drug fentanyl into the United States. Brazil has stopped issuing temporary work visas for workers of Chinese electric vehicle maker BYD after alleged accusations of some workers being victims of human trafficking. The allegations have raised concerns the South American nation, as the Justice Ministry has threatened to revoke all the resident permits if the reports hold true. Recently, Brazil's labor authorities had claimed that they found out 163 Chinese workers brought to Brazil irregularly in slavery-like conditions. On the other hand, Xinjiang Group, the contractor of these workers, has denied any wrongdoing. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A portion of Santa Cruz Wharf in California collapsed on Monday from strong waves, with 2 people being rescued by a lifeguard unit and a third swimming to safety. The portion of the wharf that collapsed was previously damaged and was undergoing restoration from severe storms last year. Iranian authorities have lifted a ban on Meta's instant messaging platform WhatsApp and Google Play as a first step to scale back internet restrictions. Iranian state media reported on Tuesday social media platforms were widely used in anti-government protests in Iran. The year-end rush of homecoming visitors and vacationers has started in Japan, with the rush of holiday makers traveling overseas peaking on Saturday. An estimated 75,200 people a day, including visitors from overseas, will use Kansai Airport for international flights during the year-end and New Year period through January 5th. More than 1,000 children and youngsters gathered in Germany's Paderborn on Saturday to take part in an annual Christmas tradition, singing carols and spearheading festive cheer to raise money for children in need. The carol singers dressed up in costumes impersonating the 3 wise men. And still to come on the India NewsHour. As Election Commission of India releases world's largest electoral data set, we will have a detailed discussion on the same. Stay tuned. Air traffic to and from India's Srinagar was affected on Saturday as flight operations at the airport were suspended. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin apologizes to the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, says Russian air defense was active when Azerbaijani Airlines plane crashed. Afghan Taliban hits back at Pakistan in retaliation for deadly airstrikes in eastern Afghanistan. EAM S. Jaishankar meets next US NSA Michael Waltz, holds wide-ranging conversation on bilateral ties and global issues. The mortal remains of former Prime Minister of India Manmohan Singh consigned to flames with full state honours. Leaders from across the globe pay homage to the eminent economist and former Prime Minister. The Election Commission of India has released the world's largest electoral data set, promoting transparency and allowing for comprehensive analysis. Now, to discuss more on this, I have been joined by Anup Chandra Pandey, former Election Commissioner of India. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast, first of all. Sir, the Election Commission of India unveiled the world's largest electoral data set, 42 statistical reports on 2024 Lok Sabha elections and 14 reports each on 4 state assembly elections. How does the release of the electoral data set by the Election Commission of India support transparency? If you could just explain a bit.
Siddharth, thank you very much for calling me.
Pleasure, sir.
The Election Commission's policy has always been towards maximum disclosure, towards transparency and accessibility of data to all the stakeholders. Now, this has been the practice right from the first elections, that all the statistical reports are put in public domain. Now, similarly, in these elections, 42 reports for the parliamentary elections and 14 reports about the 4 state assembly elections have been released. The practice in the commission is to share this data with all the candidates and their agents, with all the political parties, with all the stakeholders, the media, the researchers, the academicians, the election watchers, not only in India, but even internationally. And the practice is to share it in the public domain with the voters at large. So these are detailed statistics of all the phases, whether it is the registration, whether it is the polling, or whether it is the result. And the data has been disaggregated in terms of all the voters, all the candidates, all the political parties, for all parliamentary constituencies and for all assembly constituencies. It has been broken down state-wise and constituency-wise. Now, this is an authentic source for information. The entire information relating to the elections has been put down in public domain. So Commission shares everything with all these people so that you can make a comparison of the different trends. Because earlier reports are available, so you can see, compare it with the past trends. Even you can compare it with the global trends also internationally.
Indeed. Sir, also the Lok Sabha elections saw a 7.43% increase in the number of registered electors. How do you see this in terms of voter awareness?
Oh, increased registration certainly is because of increased awareness. And the Commission has been working very, very hard on this so that no voter is left out. So there is a special program which is called SWEEP, that is the Systematic Voter Education Program, that is a voter outreach program of the Commission. So every election, after that election, then there is a detailed analysis at the Commission. What are the low voter turnout constituencies? What are the low voter turnout polling stations? And in those areas, we try to find out why there has been a low voter turnout, and these voter outreach initiatives are taken in those areas. The two biggest factors are urban apathy and youth apathy. Now, in urban apathy, contrary to what people think, the voter turnout in urban areas, in educated people, is less than in rural areas. So we launch a number of initiatives for in urban areas to promote more voting, to promote more registration. We use self-help groups, we use resident welfare associations, In fact, this election, a number of polling stations had been opened in society buildings, so to enable the voters to vote there wherever they are staying. Similarly, youth apathy, the commission focuses more on this 18 to 19 age cohort. So in educational institutions, there have been a number of electoral literacy clubs to initiate the students in the electoral literacy. Last year, there was an amendment in the Act whereby 4 qualifying dates have been prescribed, that instead of only the registration closing on 1st January, it will be open even on 1st April, 1st July, 1st October, so that whosoever is left out, especially the new voters, he can be registered. The commission last year gave one more concession, that you can apply even when you achieve the age of 17 years, so that as soon as you reach the age of 18, you will be automatically registered. So basically, because of all these initiatives, the registration has increased, and this time there has been an appreciable increase in the voter registration.
Indeed. Sir, women's participation in Lok Sabha elections saw a significant rise. In fact, of the 97.97 crore registered electors, 47.63 crore were women, up from 43.85 crore in 2019. And for the second time in Lok Sabha history, female voter turnout surpassed male turnout. Could you shed light on the specific measures implemented by the Election Commission of India, that contributed to the notable increase in female voter participation?
Sure, this is a very important area. And Siddharth, you see, you rightly pointed out that there has been an increase in all the areas, whether it is the registration, whether it is the voting, whether it is the candidates also. So everywhere there has been an increase in registration. How we measure registration? Registration we measure by gender ratio. Now, what is the percentage of voting women voters as compared to male voters? So, and the gender ratio is in terms of 1,000 voters, 1,000 male voters. So the gender ratio in 2010 was 928. Now this election, it has increased to 948. So there has been an appreciable increase in gender ratio in these elections. Similarly, in the polling percentage, the percentage of women voting has been 65.65%, which is more than the male polling percentage. So women voters have outnumbered men voters. As far as representatives are concerned, you see, there has been a record 800 candidates this time, women candidates, which has been a record of sorts. And out of them, again, 74 MPs have been elected. In the first election, there were only 22 women MPs, so which was 4%. Now this has increased to 14%. And now, because of all this, last year this Women Reservation Act was passed. And because of that, after delimitation, when this act will be implemented, so women reservation will still increase from 14%, which is right now, to more than 33%. So there has definitely been a trend of increase of women representation also in the House. Now, the main reason why it is the participation is increasing is because there has been more and more voter outreach. And now women do not feel it as a stigma to come out of their homes. So even in backward areas, so what we do is we whether it is registration or polling or sweep initiatives, the focus is always on women. There is gender sensitization at all levels.
Definitely, sir.
Yes, and when the basic worker is known as a booth level officer.
Definitely.
for registration. So the endeavor of the commission is that there should be more and more lady BLOs.
Indeed.
So what we do is, especially Anganwadi workers or women
and
workers.
And also, sir, you know, very quickly, given the scale of India's elections, you know, often compared to those in other countries, how challenging would it be for other countries to hold such a mammoth exercise?
Siddharth, now that is something I would not be able to comment because that is their systems. I can only say this particular thing that if you see the scale of operations, now India has almost 97 crore voters. The second largest democracy is USA, which is 1/3 of our voters, 33 crores. And the democracies that are normally mentioned are UK, only 4 crore, or Canada, 4 crore, France, again 4 crore, Germany, 5 crore, Australia, only 2.5 crore. So all the Europe, combined Europe, 45 crore, less than half of our democracy. So our challenges are much more than their challenges. So it will be a huge effort on their part to really come up to the challenges that we have faced. One thing is there, we have this triple IDM, our institute, and that is probably the only institute in the world which trains people in democratic exercise all over the world, especially in the developing countries, whether it is Asian countries or African countries or South American countries. Every year, hundreds and hundreds of officers from there come to study our system, and India, and they study our electoral practices and then try to implement it in their countries. So that way, India definitely wants that whatever our electoral systems are there, so other countries should also try to develop similar kind of systems.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast, sir. Much appreciated. Well, going back to a top story on Russian President Vladimir Putin apologizing to Azerbaijan President days after plane crash. According to a statement by Kremlin, Vladimir Putin apologized for the fact that the incident happened in Russian airspace. The Russian president also offered deep and sincere condolences to the victims' families and wished a speedy recovery to the injured. RT correspondent Yasin Ekin has filed this report from Baku in Azerbaijan. Have a look.
Comes at a time that Azerbaijan was, of course, carrying out investigations into the incident. And we understand that two heads of state discussed these scenarios which transpired. And we understand just at this current stage, the Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences to those people that were tragically killed as a result of that incident, as well as expressing his apologies for the circumstances in which they transpired. We understand that it happened within Russian airspace, and the Russian president was quite vocal in ensuring that it was, in fact, an accident. Of course, this is going to be concluded as a result of an investigation that not just Azerbaijan, but the state of Russia itself is going to be conducting. But what we understand at this given time, according to the telephone conversation held between the two heads of state, that the aircraft that was trying to head and land at Grozny Airport was, of course, subjected to an area which was being targeted by Ukrainian drone attacks, which triggered Russian air defense systems. And as a result of those attacks, the plane was diverted to Kazakhstan. And we understand that the events that transpired from there on was of course tragic. We understand that the aircraft was essentially carrying 67 people. This includes crew members on board, nationals from Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, which also resulted in the death of about 38 people. We understand, of course, at this given moment, on Friday, the head of Russia's air transport agency issued a statement suggesting that the plane's pilot tried to land the plane many times. This is corresponded with eyewitness testimonies from surviving passengers on board the Azerbaijani aircraft. And we understand that at this given point, it was diverted to Kazakhstan because the airspace within the immediate region was closed. Let's listen to him.
All right. Thank you so much for joining in. And air traffic to and from India's Srinagar was affected on Saturday as flight operations at the airport were suspended due to snowfall on Friday. This was the first major snowfall in the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir after 3 years, with Srinagar recording about 8 inches of snow. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. World chess champion D. Gukesh calls on PM Modi, presents original chessboard of the game he won. India's Nitish Kumar Reddy slams maiden ton, but Australia still ahead in Melbourne Test.
Welcome to Haryana, where the indomitable spirit of humanity unites. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. NASA announced on Friday that its Parker solar probe is safe and operating normally after successfully completing the closest ever approach to the Sun by any human-made object. On December 24th, the spacecraft flew within 3.8 million miles of Sun's surface, entering the corona, the Sun's outer atmosphere. The operations team at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory in Maryland received a beacon signal from the probe just before midnight on Thursday. The spacecraft is set to send detailed telemetry data about its status on January 1st. Union Education Minister of India Dharmendra Pradhan graced the 12th and 13th convocation ceremonies of Indian Institute of Technology in Odisha's Bhubaneswar as the chief guest on Saturday. Pradhan congratulated the graduating students and expressed his best wishes for their bright future. In his address, the minister urged students to contribute to India's journey to become the world's third largest economy. He further urged them not to just pursue jobs but to focus on becoming job creators too.
औद्योगिक क्रांति 4.0 में मालिक बनना है, हमें जॉब क्रिएटर बनना है, हमें इनोवेटर बनना है.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for sport. World chess champion D. Gukesh has called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Saturday, praising Gukesh's determination and dedication. PM Modi said his confidence was truly inspiring. PM Modi remarked that their conversation revolved around the transformative potential of yoga and meditation. Gukesh presented to PM Modi the original chessboard of the game he won. It is autographed by him and Grandmaster Ding Liren of China. Gukesh became youngest world champion at the age of 18 when he defeated Ding Liren in Singapore earlier this month. After meeting, PM Modi posted on social media platform X, and I quote, "Had an excellent interaction with chess champion and India's pride D. Gukesh. I have been closely interacting with him for a few years now, and what strikes me most about him is his determination and dedication. His confidence is truly inspiring. In fact, I recall seeing a video of his few years ago where he had said he would become the youngest world champion, a prediction that has now clearly come true thanks to his own efforts. Along with confidence, Gukesh embodies calmness and humility. Upon winning, he was composed, basking in his glory while fully understanding how to process this hard-earned victory. Our conversation today revolved around the transformative potential of yoga and meditation. In the success of every athlete, their parents play a pivotal role. I complimented Gukesh's parents for supporting him through thick and thin. Their dedication will inspire countless parents of young aspirants who dream of pursuing sports as a career. I am also delighted to have received from Gukesh the original chessboard from the game he won. The chessboard, autographed by both him and Ding Lizen, is a cherished memento. The Hockey India League has commenced in Eastern City, Rourkela on Saturday. Returning after 7 years, the men's tournament features 8 teams. In the first phase, all teams will face each other in a round-robin format. In the second phase, teams will be divided in 2 groups. The top 4 teams at the end of league stage will advance to the semi-finals, with the final slated for February 1st. Each match will result in a winner, with penalty shootouts being introduced for tied games. Women's League has also been introduced for the first time, which will take place from January 12th to 26th. In cricket, India ended day 3rd of the 4th test against Australia with 358 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in Melbourne, but visitors are still 116 runs behind. Youngsters Nitish Kumar Reddy and Washington Sundar staged India's comeback with an over 100 runs partnership for the 8th wicket. Sundar scored a half-century before getting dismissed by Nathan Lyon. On the other hand, Nitish Kumar Reddy, who has played only 4 tests, brought up his maiden century to keep the visitors in the game. Scott Boland and Australian skipper Pat Cummins picked up 3 wickets apiece. Reddy, who is unbeaten on 105, will resume on Sunday alongside Mohammad Siraj, who is batting on 2. Former Olympic champion Belinda Bencic led Switzerland to a 2-1 win over France in the United Cup tournament on Saturday. The 27-year-old beat Chloe Paquette 6-3, 6-1 in her first match. She later combined with Dominic Stracker to down the pair of Lechemia and Roger Vaseline 6-1, 7-6. Humbert had earlier pulled France level at 1-1 with the win over Stricker and forced a mixed doubles rubber. Canada were also victorious in Group A match of the 10 million tournament that features 18 countries as they defeated Croatia 2-1. Argentina caused an upset at the United Cup when they beat hosts Australia 2-1 in Sydney. Maria Carle and Thomas Martin beat Australian pair of Matthew Abdin and Alan Perez 6-2, 6-4 in the deciding mixed doubles to seal victory for Argentina. Nadia took the women's singles for Argentina as she beat Olivia 6-2, 6-4. Defending champion Law Connect clinched the Sydney to Hobart yacht race early on Saturday. Christian Beck's Law Connect was in second place on Friday but moved into the lead when favourite master Loch Comanche retired due to mainsail damage. Law Connect had finished the 2023 race by 51 seconds in a dramatic finish, but this time the Super Maxi beat second placed Celestial V70 with a healthy lead. Earlier, 2 sailors were killed. It was the first loss of life in the prestigious ocean race since 1988. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want to get great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India NewsHour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.